In this episode,
we have Paul
at Sky Player in FPL.
The Fantasy Football Show.
Hello and welcome to episode 2 of our 30 in 30 with Planet #FPL. My name is Suj.
My name is James.
And we're getting started and running through our 30 in 30 podcasts in 30 days, which are, give or take, 30 minutes long. How we doing, James?
I'm all right, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, can't complain at all. Today, we have the one and only at Sky Player in FPL, Paul, with us. Paul, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining us. You obviously have shot to real fame this season in the FPL game with your interaction on Twitter, your incredible rank. Why don't you go ahead and tell us what it is? Because if I had your rank, I'd be telling everyone at every possible opportunity.
It was 48th overall and even better, number 1 in Wales.
Wow. And to be honest with you, I was talking to James about this a little bit earlier because I listened to your Getting to Know You podcast with the Three Amigos, and you did say that you're down in the valleys in South Wales.
Yeah.
So I used to live in Tonarefal. You know Tonarefal?
Yeah, I actually work in Treorchy, which isn't too far away.
Right, so there you go. Small world. My dad used to have a factory which was just in one of the industrial estates down in Tonarefal. James doesn't believe me that I was down in the valley.
I can't believe you tried to put that accent on.
I lived there for 2 years. And Wales actually has quite, like, Brett from FPL TV is based in Newport, also down in South Wales. So I think there's quite a lot of players, a lot of FPL players.
Person.
No, but I mean that there is a strong community down that way from what he was saying to me.
I think quite local. We've got is Andrew Ferguson.
Yep. Oh yeah, we know.
He's one. Matthew Jones isn't too far away.
Yeah, good player he is.
FPL Nymphria is Welsh.
Yeah.
not quite sure where she's
and
based. But
you beat them all. So hats off to you, sir.
This felt like a really good. Go on, Paul. Sorry.
No, that's about as surprising as anything.
This felt like a really good idea, inviting Paul on, and I already feel so fucking stupid.
Why?
Because his rank.
Yeah,
it's
true.
Unbelievable. Yeah,
true, definitely. I mean, the official FPL account put a tweet out about last year's winner, saying that he finished 300,000 overall or something along those lines today. Not so lucky this year was their tweet or something like that. And I was like, yo, the guy, like, what's the likelihood of winning it twice in a row? And he still finished 300,000. So don't get too down on yourself, James.
I'm not intending to, mate.
However, Paul, we actually would love you to replicate your rank again next season. James is really intrigued about the differences between the Sky game because you obviously have a strong history in that, and your rank in that game was very good as well. I've never played the Sky game, but I really feel like I'm going to next season. I don't know if that's because I'm jumping on your bandwagon and thinking, well, if Paul did well playing Sky, then maybe it will help me.
Oh yeah, Paul, 48th in the world. Oh, I'll have a go as well.
I don't know if I'm just bandwagoning, which I have been known to do. But yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit about the differences between the two games?
In terms of scoring and that side of it, most of the point scoring is very similar to FPL. To be perfectly honest, it's just the fact that rather than a 15-man squad, you're working with just a base 11 players. So any rotation issues, any injuries, your player's not playing.
Ouch.
So that's a bit harsh on that side of it.
Yep.
Captaincies, there's daily captaincies instead of a weekly one. So pretty much whatever day there's games on, you've got to have a captain for.
So if you had a weekend, Paul, like we had one recently, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, is that potentially 4 different captains in a game week then?
Yeah, you need 4 players going.
So out of your 11 players, you could have 4 people as your captain?
Yeah.
Wow. So if you had like Monday night football or Friday night football, there's only 2 teams playing, like one match, and you didn't have a player from either side, you're basically going without a captain in that match?
Yeah, you're basically going in knowing your rank's going down.
Right, okay, interesting. Interesting.
But-
That was something I didn't know. I did know that the number of transfers was limited, but I didn't know that you had a captain every day.
Yeah, it's a big part of the planning side of Sky. You're constantly looking where are the single game weeks, sort of when the TV fixtures are announced by Sky, sort of like the May fixtures were announced at the beginning of April. You're already looking for May to see which games are on single days, which teams you need players from. It's quite intensive planning wise.
So that's massive, isn't it, Paul? From the perspective, like before the season starts, you normally know the TV fixtures up until end of November.
Yeah.
Would you be planning that far ahead?
You can do, and I'm an accountant, so I usually pull out the spreadsheets.
Good lad.
Get the Excel on the go. I love a bit of Excel.
Yeah, basically. But you can sort of plan right the way up, but we all know football's a strange old game and you can't plan that far ahead. There's no way. So
Yeah.
I tend to go 6 weeks maybe.
Right. Do you? So I know one of the other things with Sky is that you have a fixed number of transfers throughout the season.
Yes.
So would you, when you're planning for 6 weeks, is it the kind of thing where you do 4 transfers once every 6 weeks to set you up for the next 6 weeks, and then chuck in a couple here or there if you had injuries, or were you making transfers on a weekly basis?
No, you're looking at it constantly because it's not like FPL where the game week just cuts off.
Yeah.
It's sort of, you can make transfers similar with the captains, different captains on every day. You can have somebody playing on a Friday night, transfer them out for somebody who's playing on a Saturday, transfer them out for somebody that's playing on a Sunday. So you can quite easily burn through transfers, but again, that's something that needs a lot of planning
and not only that, so if you've got a weekend where you've got fixtures on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, can you set your captain up for all of 4 in advance, or do you have to log in every day to set your captain? Because this is already sounding like too much hard work for me. I struggle with one entire game week. This feels like there's 4 game weeks within each game week.
Yeah, it's something that favours the more involved fantasy players, should you say. But as with the captains, it used to be you had to log in every day, but I think it was this year they introduced the idea where you could set your captain for each day in advance.
Oh, fair play. That solves one problem, but honestly, it sounds like it's way more intense than regular FPL.
I feel like Paul was talking to me.
Yeah. Well, as the dedicated FPL player. Yeah, some of us have slightly larger lives outside of FPL.
You said to me when we've been messaging each other, Paul, that the game would really suit me from the planning perspective.
Yeah.
Just can you just detail that in a bit more and how that's related to obviously what you tried in FPL this year in terms of restricting yourself and the transfers and stuff?
Well, you strike me as somebody who sort of thinks a couple of weeks in advance.
I
anyway.
love him.
And from what I've listened to with the pods and things, that's sort of how you come across. But I think that sort of style suits the Sky game because you're already looking ahead. You're already looking, where can I put this player in? Where can I captain this player? So it's sort of, I guess with the FPL, it just kind of filters in. It's not so much you worrying about it daily, but you've got the strategy already in mind. So you're already looking a couple of weeks ahead to sort of say, right, the fixtures are changing here. I need captains from, say, City and Liverpool for that fixtures change.
I also think I feel like when you've got games spread out and you don't want to be making too many chopping and changing transfers, with Sky, you're better off with a spread of players from different clubs rather than doubling down on 3 Liverpool and 3 City, just in case there's a game week where they play on the same day and then the following day you may end up with no players, for example. Or does the point scoring kind of counteract that because Liverpool and City just seem to smash everyone?
Well, that's the sort of toss-up you've got to make as you go along.
Right.
I think I finished the season with 3 Liverpool defenders and Salah.
So there's no limit on how many you can have from any club?
No, there's no restrictions at all on how many from each club.
Oh, so if it's affordable, you could have the whole Liverpool team, in theory. You obviously wouldn't be able to
but it's
afford it,
not.
but
Yeah, sadly.
but you could have the whole West Ham team, for example.
That you could probably manage, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Set it up as your dead team, mate.
Yeah, let's see. I might even consider doing that. Interesting. It was really interesting to think about strategy and how we get about involved with FPL, the level of thought that goes into it, because sometimes there's an argument to be made for not overthinking FPL as well. Like people manage to achieve ranks. I think that the team that won the who got the assist Zombie League was 84,000 overall, which is an incredible rank for a team that made no transfers all season and shows what can be done even when less is more.
Yeah, I think Sky sort of plays into that, because you're not always looking to swap players, because you've got the limits on the transfers. You're sort of more inclined to think, do I actually need to change this player out?
Yeah.
Or am I better off just holding him, saving the transfer for later on when it might be needed for an injury, or there is somewhere that you've identified that you can go and attack the game?
Paul, I know you said there's no subs involved in Sky, and that led you a lot to kind of part of your strategy for FPL this year was to kind of largely forget your bench. Would that be right?
Yeah, I pretty much picked my bench. If I sort of go back to the Sky game slightly, they've got overhauls, which is the same as the FPL wildcard.
Yep.
But you don't have a choice of when you get to play them. You've got to play them at a set time.
Right. Do you have a small window? Or is it literally like game week 15 or game week, whatever the corresponding game week would be?
In terms of the game weeks for FPL this year, the Sky overhauls came in, I think it was after game week 4.
Wow, so early.
So early. And then the second one was the week of the Carabao Cup final.
Right, so that's quite late.
Did they not announce that in advance then, or?
Sorry?
Do they not announce in advance when those dates are going to be?
Yeah, they tell you at the start of the season.
Okay.
So that's something I sort of brought over to FPL, because I played my wildcards the exact same times as the Sky overhaul.
That's interesting. Wildcard timing was something that I was thinking about a little bit, mainly because when we did the live show at the weekend before, a couple of weeks ago, James pulled up the stats for the guy that won it, Adam Levy, and also James, who both did considerably better than me, but they played their first wildcard very late. You're talking game week 14, game week 15. I played mine early, and I thought maybe one of the strategies I have to be thinking about next season was to try and hold on to it a little bit longer. But then now you've turned it on its head by saying you played yours in game week 4, give or take.
Yeah, I played mine straight after game week 4. But it really suited this year, because you had all the players coming back from the World Cup that you didn't know they was going to be playing.
Yep.
Or was going to be starting games from the off.
Yeah, I mean...
So I just looked at the first 4 games, picked out the teams with the best fixtures, and just loaded up on them for the first 4 weeks.
Oddly enough, that was my plan as well, Paul, and for whatever reason I just kept going, and it was game week 19 eventually I pulled the trigger on mine. But I'd planned my squad just for the first 4 game weeks as well.
And to be fair, your wildcard, James's, works really well, because your 4 or 5 game weeks after your wildcard was storming.
Yeah, well, the first wildcard, let's not talk about the second one.
No, and that was just that slow downward spiral come the second half of the season. It's interesting. We had it was a question that came in on Twitter in one of our podcasts where people talked about the most important part of the game. What's the most important strategic part of the game? And James's answer to that was value, like team value, and making sure you're keeping an eye on it. And that's again something that completely differs from Sky, right? Your players don't go up or down in value throughout the season.
No, there's no price changes to all in Sky.
Right. So is that something you carried across as well and just punted and said, "Sod it, I'm not going to think about team value and whatever it is and whatever it ends up, so be it."
Yeah, precisely. I was leaving transfers right up to the last minute just to make sure I had all the injury info, all of that, and just completely ignored team value. If I couldn't afford a player, then I'd just go to the next one on my watch list that I could afford.
So good example, Paul. I don't know. Did you play Sky the year Leicester won the league?
Yeah.
So presumably under that format, teams would have had a lot of Leicester players in and quite a bit of Spurs as well, because you had sort of unheralded players like Mahrez, Dele Alli, who were no ones at the start of the season, would have been sort of auto picks for FPL teams on an increased value. And obviously with Sky staying exactly the same, presumably they would have been in the majority of teams, no?
Sorry, James, you was breaking up.
Sorry, just saying about, say, people like Mahrez and Vardy in that season, because their price would have started low and obviously would have definitely stayed low, they would have been in the majority of Sky teams, I would have thought.
Yeah, they would have. But one of the things with Sky is you get to make your teams private, so nobody can see them.
Oh, okay.
Cheeky.
Yeah, for ownership, you're basically working off whatever stats Sky you got on this site, but you can't watch the people around you to see what they've got. Okay.
Are there any sort of real differences in terms of the sort of players, ignoring value for a second, that wouldn't interest you in FPL that might in Sky? So I'm thinking sort of like holding midfielders here, you people like sort of Kantes and Fernandinho's. Can they appeal in the Sky game at all?
Yeah, it comes down to the bonus point system in Sky, because that is a lot different to FPL. It's a tiered bonus system, which it doesn't just give to the 3 best performing players. It's sort of attainable by everybody. So if they reach a certain level, I think the bonuses are shots on target, tackles, number of completed passes, saves for goalkeepers. So providing they were hitting the requisite levels, they were achieving bonus points.
Yeah, that's been an annoyance for quite a few managers this season, where you've got a player in one game that racks up 40 or 50 on the BPS system and gets nothing because that game happened to be a 5-0 and someone else managed to score more. Or you've got players in a 0-0 who rack up like 15 and end up with maximum bonus points. So that seems quite an interesting way to do BPS. Maybe that's something that could overhaul in the good old regular FPL.
I think everybody is in agreement with the FPL bonus system.
Yeah.
Just to give sort of an example, if you look at somebody like Jorginho from Chelsea.
Yeah.
I think he racked up, what was it, about 90 points in FPL this year. I think he totaled about 170 in Sky.
Wow.
Right.
So those guys can appeal.
Yeah, I think he smashed out some like 25 passing bonuses.
I was going to say his pass completion numbers are insane, aren't they?
Wow, that's incredible.
It's ridiculous, and sort of every game he's completing more than 70 passes. That's an extra 3 points.
A couple of questions just on the Sky game, because I think I want to talk to you about regular football and what you think about next season and what have you. But so this season obviously using Sky strategies has served you particularly well in FPL this season. But a lot of the things that you're saying go counter to what the majority of managers are doing in terms of worrying about value or making sure you got players on your bench in terms of injuries and players coming off your bench that you've kind of punted and said don't matter. Obviously it's served you well and you got to 48 in the world. Are you planning on adopting exactly the same strategy for next season and using your kind of Sky rules?
This year was pretty much meant to be an experimental year just to see what I could bring, because as I've got better in Sky, my FPL rankings have got better. So I just wanted to take it full on this year and bring everything I possibly could over, sort of, because Sky, there's not many variables there. Whereas FPL, you've got the chips, you've got the price changes, you've got the bench where you've got to pick, you've got to decide who you're going to play, who you're going to bench. You don't have that in Sky.
Yep.
So I wanted to bring that over, take as many of the variables out of FPL as I could.
Yeah, keep it simple.
By pretty much ignoring everything.
Yeah.
And again, it comes back to that overmanagement and that side of the game where you're thinking about all these variables. If you take them out,
yep,
all you're left with is your transfers and your captain picks.
Interesting.
48th in the world on an experiment.
Experimental 48th. Paul, next season, it's the 2019-2020 season. What would you rather? Number one, in the official FPL game or number 1 in the Sky game?
That's easy. I'm going to jump in and answer that because
Yeah,
you can win money on the Sky game.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that there was money in the Sky game. Okay, for pride only. Take the money out of the equation.
I think I'd still go with the Sky game.
Yeah, are you a Sky player? A
interesting.
Sky player at heart that's playing in the FPL game?
It's mainly because it suits my style of play. My style of playing.
Yeah.
And I think the Sky game rewards the more involved players.
Sure. So the actual enjoyment factor is better in that for you, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Which
probably
sounds
better
completely-
rewards in the planning. All that chip strategy stuff we do and stuff, and it just blows up in your face.
Yeah, I was
right?
thinking when you're talking about different captains for different days, I was like, I've got 3 chips to manage, and that's bad enough. Let alone different captains for every different day of the week. Let's try. Okay, you've got a different dilemma now, Paul. Top 10k finish in official FPL, or top 4 for Manchester United next season. I actually feel probability-wise, top 10k next season for you is more likely than
I think
Manchester
he's
United.
nailed.
more than Manchester United finishing in the top 4 next season, based on the end of this season.
I wouldn't disagree, which is why I'll go with the club and give United the top 4.
Get back into the Champions League.
Yeah.
I think James and I talk about it a lot on the show in terms of when you're watching your team, do you just not care about FPL? And I think we're both of the same mindset where real football matters more than FPL ever will.
Yeah, team always comes first. However bad it's been this year.
Well, I don't think you can say it's been all bad. You have had kind of moments of a real good. Are you a fan of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer?
Jury's still out for me.
Yep.
I don't think they should have given him the job when they did. They should have left it till the end of the season. But it was getting more and more difficult not to give it.
No, as we
So I
said
can
a couple of
understand.
weeks ago, didn't we, on the pod Suj? We said, like, when he got given a job full time, everyone went, oh, he deserves that, doesn't he?
Yeah. He
So-
did. He'd been on a great run. The thing I do like about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is that he doesn't hide behind anything. You always do get him fronting up to the cameras if the players haven't been good enough or the performance hasn't been good enough. And I think that goes for a lot where managers are honest and they stick up for what they believe in and their values and that kind of thing. And he definitely does that.
Yeah, it's not something we've seen too much of with Mourinho and Van Gaal
shit.
before.
Yeah, I mean, you'll know if you listen to the show regularly. There's no love lost with Jose Mourinho between the two of us here.
Paul, go back to FPL briefly. What was your highest rank prior to this season?
It was actually last season, and it was about 7.6k.
Okay. How long have you been playing FPL for?
Oh, I've actually been playing FPL since going way back to when I was in university. But I think the earliest history of my previous team was 2007.
Wow.
The Sky game's not been going that long, has it?
No, it's not been going that long. I've only been sort of involved in the Sky game for the past 5 years, maybe.
Okay. Are there any real other sort of... I know I'm kind of convinced that maybe I should give it a go, but we've been so focused on FPL, I don't really want to be balancing 2 teams while we're doing this. But like for listeners who might be interested, and I think that there is a growing feeling of angst amongst the community towards the FPL game. What would you say to someone who sort of really wanted to give Sky a try?
Sorry, James, who's breaking up a bit, Dan.
It's Suj holding a bloody phone, isn't it? So, what would you say to people who are sort of fallen out of love with FPL a little bit and want to give the Sky game a go? How would that? Because I know you've mentioned frustrations with things like chips. I know you were frustrated with when you were on the Free Amigos. What would you say to people who wanted to give Sky a go for the first time?
That's a broad question.
You take it wherever you like, mate. Would I enjoy it more? If I took on the Sky game, would I enjoy it more than FPL? Do you think?
I'd like to say yes, because that's the way I feel about it. But
Yeah.
I know a lot of FPL players who've gone to try Sky who just don't get on with it at all. And I think it's the constant involvement. People like to set the team for the week and then just put it away.
It worries me. I think this podcast is called Planet FPL, and it worries me that I'd get a hump with it, I think.
With the Sky game. Yeah. I mean, we struggle with anything different anyway. Like we don't even set up the draft teams, or I've never played fantasy draft either.
That's too much work.
But is it much more work? Because once you've got your team, right? You're kind of set up, and that's that. Although I don't have the most understanding of how draft works, but you can only have one player. Like I can only be one person that owns each player, right?
Paul, do you play draft?
Yeah, I've got a couple of draft teams. Draft is a far easier game to play.
Yeah, because once you're set, you're kind of set, right?
Yeah, you just look in sort of every week to see if there's players you can pick up off the waiver wire, which is basically the pool of players that nobody's picked up.
So presumably you've got a maximum amount of people per league then, have you? Or
I play in an eight manager league, which works for us. But I do know there's people out there that've got sort of 12, 15-man leagues.
There's got to be some sort of limit.
Yeah, how they manage to put squads together, I'll never know.
Well, it'd be first come, first served, wouldn't it? You would never let go of like a Salah or a Sterling out of fear, would you?
No.
So you'd keep hold of them.
Yeah, definitely. Unless there's someone else became available, it would be very difficult.
So outside, go on, Paul. Sorry, finish.
Oh no, I was just going to say it's either that or you sort of offer up trades to other managers.
Outside of the obvious strategy that you put together this year, which was obviously quite unique, in terms of actually just generally making transfers within particularly the FPL game, who are you looking for? Because I looked back at your history a little bit earlier today, and I noticed we were joking on the live show about how we all felt.
Sorry, James, you've gone.
Can you hear me, Paul?
Yep.
Sorry, what I was saying is in terms of making transfers, particularly for FPL, is there any sort of go-tos in terms of value, in terms of where you want to go? Because me and Suj were saying at the live show, like how many people fell for the Walcott trap in game week 4. So I was looking through your history and I went, there's no way Paul fell for that trap. He did. So what's your thinking and your methods on transfers?
Well, in respect to the Walcott one, I knew I was wildcarding the week after. So I knew I had him for 1 week.
A one-game week punt.
Okay. There you go. There was a strategy, James. We just didn't know what the strategy was behind it.
It was just literally an easy switch. Same price, same team. Swap him in for one game, and after that, he's gone.
Right.
And you knew that, definitely.
Yeah, because I'd already set in stone that my wildcards were going to be when the overhauls were.
I can't argue that then.
No.
So are you looking for... more sort of players that are coming into form, players you think might be about to go into form, or is it part influence from, say, the Sky game and that you do look at fixtures a lot?
It's a bit of everything, because from the Sky you're always looking at the fixtures. At the time I was writing a blog and was keeping a watch list on there of different stats and which players were sort of topping them. So I'd already had a list of players built up of who I'd like to go to if I had a problem with mine. And if I look at my first sort of 6 game weeks, I think every transfer I made was to cover an injury.
Yeah, it feels like that a lot at the start, yeah.
Yeah, because I think I had a Wan-Bissaka red card in game week 2. I had Richarlison red card.
We all had that one.
One of the things I noticed from your team, Paul, was I don't know if you've got it handy to view. I haven't got it in front of me, but looking at it earlier, your game week 1 team almost looked like a free hit team a little bit. I think if I remember right, you had 3 Liverpool, 3 City, 3 Palace, and 2 others. I think Richarlison and someone else, if I remember right.
Yeah, it was 3 City, 3 Liverpool.
I think you had Wan-Bissaka, Saka, and Zaha. I think you had.
Yeah, I had them in the starting 11.
It was Richarlison and someone else.
Richarlison and David Luiz.
David Luiz, old sideshow Bob. So was that intentional? Because obviously on that opening day Liverpool and City both had obviously decent fixtures, and Palace were at Fulham. So was that intentional to go in really hard on the opening day?
Yeah. That, like I said, is going back to the fact I knew the overhaul was after game week 4.
Yeah, because Palace had Liverpool in game week 2, so that must have been quite conflicting.
Yeah, that was the only debatable one, but either side of that, they had really good fixtures.
Yeah, agreed.
And I think with the reasoning behind Sacco was, I think he finished 4th for BPS for defenders last year.
Yeah, I think him and Tompkins do pick him up, yeah.
Yeah, it sort of crossed over from the Sky thing where you're always looking for the ones picking up bonus.
Yeah, really interesting. So you're a really active member on the of the community on Twitter and what have you, and I think it's different because it brings something unique to the conversation. Even this conversation now, I feel like James and I are kind of school kids asking questions, thinking, please tell us more about this, because we're trying to find different edges that we can bring to our game for next season, and God only knows that I could do with some help here. So yeah, we really appreciate everything you do. So for anybody that's listening to the show that doesn't follow Paul, what have you been doing? Is my first question. And secondly, you can find him on Twitter at SkyPlayerInFPL. Anything else you'd want to add, Paul, for where people can find you, or where the best place to engage with you is?
Twitter's the main one. I'm always on there.
Yeah.
I might be taking a little break over the summer now just to recharge.
Yeah, I wish I could say the same, but duty calls with the podcast and what have you.
Paul, bring the blog back, mate.
It's time consuming. That was the issue.
No, I know it is, but your blog is a great read, mate.
Yeah, it is. Big respect for you guys who churn out 2 pods a week. I seriously
30 podcasts this month, mate. Jesus.
You
you hold the great distinction, Paul, of being the first ever Twitter guest on the Planet FPL, mate. You can take that one to the bank with your overall fucking rank as well.
Yeah. I don't think it sits under assets, but it's a claim to fame.
No, I don't think he's going to put it in his bio.
No, there you go. But listen, we really appreciate you taking the time to come and join us as the first guest on our 30 and 30 with a fantastic overall rank. And you never know what we might do this season in terms of content. If you're beating your rank, then we'd love to have you back and learn more because we just need help here. We definitely need help.
It's going to take something to beat that, I think.
Yeah,
Paul, listen, many thanks for coming on. Have a great summer, mate, and I know we'll be interacting in the season to come, mate.
Sorry, James, you've gone.
I do the nice speech and then it goes. You can edit that bit out, man, child. Yeah. I said many thanks for coming on. Have a great summer. I know we'll be interacting next summer, mate.
Cheers, boys.
Excellent.
Cheers. Thanks a lot for having me.
No
Thanks,
problem at
Paul. All the best, mate.
Brilliant. To all you listeners that have tuned in, to the show, to episode 2 of our 30 and 30. Make sure you're tuning back daily because we're releasing one show every day, bringing guests on who generally have a far superior rank or knowledge than James and I, and trying to get you as much content as we can as we prepare for the 2019-2020 season. Apart from that, all it leaves me to say is ciao for now.
Cue music, man, child.